Hey everyone, it's Lester Martin again from Datavolo, and here with another data community broadcast, and with another one by David Handermann. You might have remembered him talking about Kubernetes and NiFi version 2.x. If you haven't seen that one, I'd recommend you go take a good look and backtrack on that one. Some good blog posts, etc. stuff. As I mentioned, David, friend of the show already. Why don't I let you just I'm gonna zip my lip and let you tell us what you're going to talk about today.
All right, Lester, thanks for the intro. So yeah, David Handermann here, software engineer and Apache NiFi project management committee member. So involved heavily both on the open source development side as well as our custom solutions. So jumping right into OpenTelemetry, there's a lot of capabilities there, a lot of buzz, and rightly so, about OpenTelemetry is both the format for collection, tracking, and so there's a lot of integration points across capabilities, across services. So as the name implies, OpenTelemetry, the whole purpose of it is to have a unified standard for observability. And one of our head of security, Peter Holcomb, has a great blog post on what is observability. So I'd recommend reading that for some more background in terms of the key components there. But as he highlights, and as you can read in any discussion about observability, the key elements of data collection there are logs, metrics, and traces. And that's exactly what OpenTelemetry is designed to do. So logs, probably the most straightforward type of thing, going back to system out, hello world, to more advanced, highly structured, maybe HTTP request logs and such, where you have source, destination, URL, user, path, user agent, all these things. And then custom application logs, that can be any sort of detail, may have additional context. So that's one fundamental piece. Then you also have metrics and traces. Metrics, basically counters, numbers, either numbers of failures, numbers of certain events happening that are easily turned into counts of, say, if this metric hits a certain threshold, there's a problem. Or you can observe over time, here's the normal amount of throughput. Oh, we've had a spike. So metrics, another key way to evaluate the health of a system. And then traces get to sort of a runtime debugging. So for those developers familiar with this, you attach a debugger to your application. You want to step through the code. Traces give you that sort of runtime evaluation of what happened from here's the entry point class, here's the next call, here's the database call. And so having good level of detail on those traces can allow you to troubleshoot where exactly in your application things are performing poorly. Maybe it's the database connection, maybe it's writing to a file, something like that. So all that together, OpenTelemetry gives a standard way, cross-platform, to collect that information. And so Apache NiFi has a
Couple questions
processor.
about just the
Yeah,
OpenTelemetry in general. Then,
sure.
so the logs themselves. I mean, I guess how far are we trying to go? If I had a custom my own application, I get if we think about how things interact with each other, there might be certain type of log messages that make sense. But I think you said
Mhm.
it. It could be your app, your custom log. So if NiFi has a log, then
Right.
they have log, right? Do we go all in? We take all of our logs and put in that world, and then just let folks play with dials about what they care about? Okay.
Right. Great question. You can do whatever you want. Basically, you can say, give me everything, and then do filtering at the point of collection, at the point of aggregation. So, or you can dial it even at the agent instrumentation, say, I only
Okay.
want to collect logs of this type. So again,
Okay.
OpenTelemetry collection systems give you that level of control for whatever you
In a
need.
generic, awesome. Yeah, okay, cool. And then you talked about traceability.
Mhm.
Definitely as a Java programmer, we think of, oh, I'm tracing to this JVM, but I'm assuming traceability really could be end to end, right? So even if it's just a Java app talking to an Oracle system, or if we do it right, we're fully instrumented, we can walk ourselves out across the wire and then walk
Exactly.
in through the DB engine. Okay, so cool. And it's the same
Yeah, so you
thing.
can instrument across applications, across services, and then you
Right.
really get the true power of
Get that
observability
beam,
there.
see how it happens. Okay. And then I
hmm
know you're probably going to get in this one, but you said metrics. So metrics, logging as a programmer, pretty easy breezy. Event happen. I'm thinking about that, not maintaining state.
Right.
Metrics, is it? I don't think we're asking the programmer to keep track of metrics, but we might ask the programmer to raise a thing that would be countable or something. Is that kind of really what happened? So we're saying, yeah, this person came in, this happened. Do I also say, oh yes, add one to successful login and add one to failed login, that kind of thing, or the log itself would be decomposed to figure out to drive a metric, or both?
Right. Yeah, good question. Both are options. So
Okay.
yeah, there's, kind of what do you get out of the box? And then if say the application is thinking in terms of what can we count?
Yeah.
For example, NiFi has counters as a first class capability. So you can say, how many records did I process? How many files have I received? How many chunks did I create? That can all be counted. So yeah, you really can do both depending
Okay.
on what the needs are and how well you've instrumented your application.
Sweet, sweet. All right, thanks.
Yeah, no, good questions. Thanks for jumping in there. So yeah, just to take it then to the Apache NiFi side, and we can jump into some questions there as well. So Apache NiFi has a listen OTLP, not to be confused with OLTP on the database query world. Easy to transpose those acronyms, but
I
OpenTelemetry.
did. I'm not gonna lie to you. In my head, you saw it, and you know how your brain sees things and turns them
Yes.
into, yeah, fair enough. I
Hmm.
switched immediately there.
Yes, easy to do, but OTLP, Open Telemetry Protocol. So if you go on the Open Telemetry site, there's an official specification for what the protocol looks like. That's tracked back to protobuf definitions. Again, the idea is cross-platform. So there's Java, Python, Go, implementations in a variety of languages to support the spec and the format that Open Telemetry has. And so the Listen OTLP processor is capable of receiving that data in any of the supported formats. So there's a binary protobuf format, and there's also a JSON format, which to a human is certainly much more readable. But
Right.
in the end, they're both just different representations of the same structure.
And this protocol buffers, that's the old, I remember seeing this 10, 15 years ago. This is the Google protocol buffers that came out really was focused on just wire transfer being as tight as we can, that cookie good stuff. Now, is that, just out of
Exactly.
curiosity, I guess I should have checked, is that stuff
Mhm.
made it to some kind of official open standard of its own, protocol buffers?
Protobuf.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if Google still actively maintains it,
Yeah.
yeah, there's
Okay.
again bindings for all your
Yeah.
languages,
Perfect.
and so
Makes
that's I
sense.
think part of the reason that OpenTelemetry adopted Protobuf is it provides RPC. What does the message look like? The request
Right.
and response,
Sweet.
and you can then generate your code as needed and
Okay.
parse it and all those things.
Cool. This is the indicator of, okay, my question's done.
No, that's good. That's good. So just taking that one step further, so you have the message format for those logs, metrics, and traces, and then the communication mechanism. So everything is over HTTP at a fundamental level. So gRPC is that wire encoding of the protobuf over HTTP. So that actually made the processor implementation fairly straightforward to do content negotiation. So basically, when the sender says, here's the data, that initial HTTP header indicates here is the content type. It's protobuf, it's JSON. And then the same processor on the same port can actually determine how to parse it and then how to pass it on. So that's again one of the benefits, and I think the reason for a lot of the OpenTelemetry adoption is this standards-based protocol, easily consumable, easily producible across languages without mandating or a particular format that's not well
Right.
described.
Yeah, yeah. That makes total sense. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, taking that further, a couple months back, I put together a blog post, both for on the Datavolo side, walk through how to use the Listen Open Telemetry processor, how to build a basic flow for that collection, and then on my personal blog post, put together some details on the implementation. If you really want to get into the details of how it works with the Netty framework, which is a high performance, low level socket programming library for writing clients and servers, really made it a powerful solution for building the processor, being able to handle high volumes, that kind of thing. So if you have more questions, I could show a couple examples from the blog of just how you would instrument
Yeah, I mean,
NiFi to do that
help
collection.
me and anyone listening go here. So if I have my own,
Hmm.
so I'm NiFi, I'm in the NiFi career or some custom framework or whatever.
Hmm.
I'm looking at this thinking, hey, I'm not really building a whole lot. I'm just making sure my messages are emitting out, and agents are the ones listening and all that good stuff, and they're collecting and sending on. There's a whole framework there. When you say
Right.
we got to listen, not OLTP, OTC, whatever, Open Telemetry, OTLP.
Yeah. Or OTEL
My
for
first
short, it's
question
common. So
that hit me is like, well, what does this mean? Does this mean we want to be participate, not just as an emitter of, we're asking ourselves or saying, hey, maybe a NiFi flow or a NiFi application can start to be more of the, not just only a producer, but a consumer in this space. That's what you're suggesting,
right.
right? Okay.
Exactly. And that's a good point. In this example, in the blog post, NiFi is both a
Yeah,
producer of events and a consumer.
right.
So just highlighting some of the options there. You can instrument any application, send it to NiFi as the collector, do other things, or maybe you only want to instrument NiFi as the producer and then use some other collection system.
Gotcha.
Again, the beauty of open telemetry for those purposes.
Um, okay. That's my question. I really, my ultimate question, I want you to think about in the back of your mind is,
Hmm.
what's a good business use of something like that? Because I absolutely get the, hey, how much, what's happening? Where's my usage? What's different today from yesterday? Are my
Right.
spiking up and spiking down? And that stuff's critically important. But I'm struggling in my own mind, and maybe that's
Hmm.
because that's the case. So I'm struggling with, okay, but what does a business person want with all this? And I know
Sure.
what
That's a great question.
I probably want the same thing. Hey, how many people are asking questions of my chatbot? How many blah, blah, it's really the same. It's really the same kind of questions, and we're probably getting it, not from some other place. You're saying, hey, that's already being emitted. Why don't you tie into that? That's, I'm guessing, the answer. So,
Hmm.
but that's my general question.
Yeah, no,
So,
hopefully can
what
answer
is
that some as we go. But one thing there I think is worth mentioning on that point is so a common use case and one of the capabilities that NiFi has supported for a while is syslog collection. So syslog, that de facto protocol that's been around since the early days of Unix, continues to live on. Pick a commercial router or anything, enable syslog. It's a few commands, but the question often comes up, well, how can I reliably collect my logs? So when it comes to security, eventing, historical tracking, what's going on, how do I know that I've actually received what I've received? And so syslog is sort of a fire and forget protocol.
right?
There's the UDP, there is the TCP version, but there's still no acknowledgement. One of
Yeah,
the values that OpenTelemetry brings is that acknowledgement, even congestion handling to say,
yeah.
I can't handle that right now. Please wait and come back. And so then the client's able to buffer for a certain amount of time.
Uh,
Of course, that can't be infinite. But
yeah,
so then in that kind of security log collection use case, maybe you want to aggregate store off to a long-term storage. You just want to fork off part of the data to do some other kinds of analysis before sending it to some other system. That's one potential use case, but having that negotiated and guaranteed response of yes, for the server to say, yes, I positively receive that is one of the key value propositions that the OpenTelemetry protocol brings versus your traditional syslog or some other types of logging protocols out there.
I hit it twice.
About to warn you there.
Yeah, I saw the big banner like, you're talking. Do you know that? Like, I guess so. I think I
All
heard is
good.
maybe I have a bunch of old hardware, a bunch of old apps, and maybe NiFi is one of those ways to kind of say, you know what, hey, I'm going to upgrade you. I'm going to let you, your piece of code, your piece of software, your hardware, whatever it is, participate in this OLTP world.
Hmm.
That's okay. I didn't even look at it from that perspective. That's a really smart one. Um, I got to think other vendors are doing something similar. Agents and that kind of stuff
Absolutely.
probably have something very, very similar as well, right? Hey, tie into
Hmm.
something, find this and raise it as well. But I got you.
Hmm.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and that's even the OpenTelemetry project itself has open source collectors. So if you want to start, run their collectors, it's easy to get started. There's a YAML configuration. You set up your listeners, set up your ports, set up your security settings. So it's that's kind of you can design your architecture such that, okay, perhaps you have some eventing system that you want to track, do more in-depth analysis, and it's built for that. And there's some great services out there. but maybe you need some special filtering or, again, some long-term storage, some particular use case, and you don't want to have to then pull that data back out of that system. Why not just get a fork of it at an earlier time? So maybe you have a central collector and you want to spin off a filtered set of that data to NiFi for additional processing, aggregation, those kinds of things. That's another potential use case. Again, the protocol is there. It's really a matter of how you want to structure your architecture to make the most of the collection you have.
Sweet. Was there anything in your blog post you were showing? I don't know if you were screen sharing or not. I probably hogged the screen share. If you're,
No, that's fine. Sure, I could. Yeah, just wanted to highlight.
But you know how to use the software then? So I don't know how to use the mute button. But if you wanted to share, you know how to share already.
I think I've done that before. Let's give it a try.
I thought I was going to provide some help here today.
All right, let's see if this works. All right, can you see my screen?
I love that we always have to say that, right? Can you hear me and can you see my screen? Hey, I can see it. Absolutely.
That's great. Never know. Never know is the problem on my end.
I act back.
There we go. Exactly. Following the protocol.
That's right.
So just two things to call out from the post. The first is on the instrumentation side, the producer side. So again, what OpenTelemetry provides out of the box is a agent for various languages and runtimes. So there's an off-the-shelf OpenTelemetry Java agent. And so provide some details here, where in the NiFi bootstrap config, which controls the process arguments for starting the application itself, you can actually add the OpenTelemetry agent using just a couple argument sections in the properties there. So you have the OTel agent property, just referencing Java agent, and then a pointer to the jar file, which we referenced for downloading. You need to give it a service name. So this is basically a way to identify this instance of the application uniquely. So, for this example, it's just a generically named NiFi 1, but maybe you have production NiFi 1, staging NiFi 2, etc. And then the certificate, which I'll mention in a little bit more detail in a moment, but then the endpoint, where do I send the data? So, of course, very important. Once you've collected it, what do you do with it? So this just takes a HTTP URL, in this case, HTTPS. So again, out of the box, the agent is capable of using encryption in transit. And so in order to support HTTPS, it's important, or it's required to configure a trust store. So if you've configured your collection system with a custom certificate, then you need to tell the agent, this is the certificate that issued that server certificate, that collector certificate, and it'll work. Otherwise, I mean, if you're using something like Let's Encrypt, then you may not need to specify that. But again, all these options are documented in the OpenTelemetry agent. The purpose here of the post is just to kind of give you a snapshot of here's enough to get started. And then the other thing I want to call out from the blog post is what the actual data looks like. So talked about, here's the structure, protobuf, JSON, different representations. Here's sort of a streamlined version of what one log record looks like. So you can see there's kind of levels of nesting here. The actual log message is way down in this string value. So it's not quite, log : value, and there you go. But again, if you look at the OpenTelemetry specification, you'll see kind of this hierarchy. So, and just the thing to call out here is each of these is an array. So you can have multiple groupings of objects, which helps for aggregation. So one system may send 100 log messages at a time. An aggregation may take thousands, put them together in one, and the JSON structure remains the same, or the protobuf structure, if that's what's used. So again, the idea of the post is to walk through, here's how you instrument NiFi, here's how you'd set up the listen OpenTelemetry processor to kind of kick the tires, and enough sense of here's what the data looks like. So the last thing I'll note here is then once you've got the data, what do you do with it? And that's exercise left to the reader, but we provided some initial, here's what you can do. And so you might want to transform that JSON into something different, or you may want to filter it out. So in this case, I highlighted the JSLT transform JSON processor. There's a number of ways to transform JSON. Some are more challenging than others, but basically the JSLT library gives you kind of a DSL for looping through, in this case, an array of resource logs, an array of scope logs, and then if the scope name is this request log name, then pull that out. So the use case here is I only care about, you're talking like, do I send all logs? Do I send some? This would filter that down to just HTTP request logs. And you can do this for other kinds of things. But again, sort of spark the ideas of what you can do once you've got the initial collection.
Two quick questions. And scroll back a little bit to the set. Hey, we want to, the very top, we said, hey, we want to use collector, I guess.
Instrumentation.
So that tells me, so that tells me that NiFi itself doesn't necessarily have to use any of this, right? He's going to log. Okay, that's good. And then what I think when you scroll down to the first JSON blob that said, hey, here's your log message. What I took from that is, at a minimum, there's some overhead, right? You're going to get all the way down to at least scope or something.
Right.
And then when I see, body, this suggests to me as I look at that string, that body answer, localhost -user, that we probably are not necessarily, we could, or we don't have to. What I'm hearing is, hey, your log messages in the day, right? It just might be a long string, CSV type delimited. And that's okay. They'll still be in this JSON graph here. But I'm just running off of some internal conversation I heard. Hey, why don't we JSON enable all the logs? If I did make my logs JSON, then my hunch is right here. Guess what? I'm going to have my more exploded thing that the application created. So I still get my JSON that I created and it sits there nice. And then all the tooling might like you better because now might be able to start using evaluation paths instead of, hey, rip this string apart. I know everybody likes regex, but whatever you end up doing with that long string might make it easier. Okay, I feel a little better. I was thinking we had to go out of our way to say log to this framework or not. No, we're going to just log. We're going to tell our engine, hey, cool, take those, emit those out. Okay, awesome. I feel better already about this.
Sure. Cool. Yeah, and again, the OpenTelemetry agent has first-class support for a lot of logging frameworks like Logback, which NiFi uses, as well as Log4j2 from Apache and others. And it's able to take those fields, such as level, is it info, warning, debug, take the timestamp, and those are first-class fields. So again, it all depends on where you're doing that instrumentation. Either at the agent level, you could do it in Logback configuration itself, or it could be some called process. So lots of levels, again, depending on how much control you have of your producer, of your application side for that collection.
Sweet. Thanks for letting me interrupt. Those are my
good question. So yeah, that there again, there's more there. Simple NiFi flow, how to connect these together so you have the listen processor just emits success every time something received, and you can back to counters. Again, that first class capability in NiFi, you just want to say how many messages did I receive as a quick troubleshooting, and then you can do additional routing. Say you only care about logs. We mentioned at the beginning, logs, metrics, traces. You can filter those out, go down to I just care about logs in this case, or I want to deal with metrics. All that's an option there. So I'll hand it back to you for sharing or not. There we go.
Oh, I have nothing to share. You're the guest. I'm the host. And so much that I realized on the slides I had me first and then the presenter. So I've changed that. This is the newest one. Presenter with your humble host, Lester. So,
thank you very much.
Yeah, I'm just here hitting the record button. So no, shares nothing for me to share. Did you have more you want to talk about, or you want me to hit you up my last few questions here? You let me know what you're thinking.
Yeah, the last thing I'll summarize, and glad to talk through some more questions, is just the security of the transport. So OpenTelemetry itself doesn't require encryption. Again, writing on the HTTP protocol, you can either encrypt it or unencrypted. The NiFi processor itself does require HTTPS. So again, a lot of things in NiFi we built with security in mind, or security as a first-class approach. So it does require an additional setup. You do have to configure a key store and a trust store. You can either use what that's provided from NiFi self-generated, and again, that's kind of described in the blog post, or if you have a officially issued certificate from an organization or Let's Encrypt or something like that, you can plug that in. But again, it is somewhat surprising you have log collection as a key observability concern for things like security events and those types of things, but protocols like syslog, that given the age, it's just the nature of it, it's
Right.
not encrypted. So
Right.
depending on where that collection's happening, having encryption in transit is a key feature, and so that's built in as well.
Gotcha. Makes a ton of sense. Cool. Well, hey, my last question's in for me, and then of course if there's anything else, nothing else, we'll wrap it up. But I'm
Sounds
going to
good.
question them, and I'm going to give you my answer, so you can tell me if I'm wrong or if there's more to it than that.
All
I
right.
love it. I get it. I get it as far as not doing it. I get it. I see what we're doing. We all have these general problems. How do we trace things? How do we log things? How do we capture them? And absolutely doing that in a way that lets us bring a standard set of tools or change tool vendors, all that, all beautiful. I'm 100% on board. So to me, a lot of this is, it's the sysadmin. It's the DevOps person that we've been talking about. Uh,
Right.
and you answer my other question about, okay, but is there some business utilization of it? There is, as long as you know from a business utilization of, well, what am I looking for technically, the answer is my business.
Right.
So, okay, that's fair. So if that's
Yep.
still mainly the answer there, then my last two questions are, how does this help an average, Apache NiFi owner? So not us. We're Datavolo. We want you to use Datavolo server, Datavolo cloud, but the thousands of people with their NiFi clusters. Why is this awesome for them? What did they really get? Is it just everything we talked about, and that's primarily it, or is there something else I'm missing? I think that's it. And then
Yeah.
again, give me the second
Mhm.
question is, how does
Uh-huh.
it good for Datavolo folks? And my hope is, for the average Datavolo person building an AI data engineering pipeline, it's just
Hmm.
letting us ultimately move to other cloud providers faster, quicker, easier. It's lowering
Hmm.
costs because we're doing all that kind of stuff. It's really
Right.
infrastructure with benefit that we're all going to get from it. But
Hmm.
unless you're going to build a business app to really know about these events that are occurring, for the most part, we're doing it for you, for all of
Right.
us, for the good of all. So if I missed anything, let me know, because those are darn good reasons to do stuff. Good
Sure.
things that save money, save time, make us more.
Sure. Hmm. No, good question. So I'll try to answer the first one. What's the general benefit for the community or the average NiFi user, average NiFi deployment out there? I'd say probably if log collection is a focus, a part of a standard flow design, then I think being able to support uh, OpenTelemetry as a replacement for some
Yeah.
of these older protocols is a key selling point. So again, I've seen the question a lot. How do I guarantee deliverability of my syslogs? And well, it's a fundamental protocol problem there. How much do you trust your network? And, things happen. So being able to support that, if you already have a log collection flow design, being able to transition to OpenTelemetry collection. So maybe you have hundreds or thousands of devices. They're all using syslog. Some have OpenTelemetry
Right.
collection capability. You can incrementally
Right.
build to that.
Not a cut. Is
So
that not a hard cutover? It's as you got time and interest and focus.
exactly,
Yeah, absolutely.
exactly. Just leveraging the power of NiFi, configurable flows. Okay, a new input point. Get it into the format where it fits your destination, and there you go. So I think that's one probably the most clear use case is if you have existing log collection. If you don't have any and you're trying to build something new, then it presents some options of, okay, I've got the OpenTelemetry collector itself. That might be a question, well, why wouldn't I just use that? If you're just driving no transformation, just send data to an endpoint, the, the OpenTelemetry collector is lightweight, it's simple, it does the job. But when you get into, oh, I want to do more transformation, I want to do filtering, I want to do aggregation before I send, again, the open source OpenTelemetry collector supports a number of those features, but
Right.
NiFi with its ability to plug in
What we
configurable
do, what he does. Yeah.
aggregation, enrichment, all that gives you that benefit. And then the second half of the question, of course, what's of interest to us at Datavolo? This is just one aspect of some of the open telemetry work we've been doing. The other aspect, which I'll mention, and maybe that's a topic for a future discussion, is actually on instrumenting NiFi itself. So we've spent some time doing more instrumentation of NiFi, getting the status of each processor, process group. Again, these are first-class NiFi capabilities,
Right.
but instrumenting that so we can then send that collection data for our own observability and then provide that to customers. So, we've learned a lot, I think, in building the collection side. We've also learned a lot in building the consumption side. So I think there's more that we can do with it. And then, as far as offering to customers, as we focus on generative AI capabilities, unstructured data, not to the exclusion of, and again, the beauty of NiFi, you want to bring in structured log collection. How can you augment and put those pieces together and create a holistic pipeline of all your data through NiFi? And so I think that fits well with that kind of strategy.
No, it sounds beautiful. Yeah, and it makes me think of, well, we have some more topics, but to do, but one we're going to do, or just a little teaser to everyone. We're trying to show how we can have NiFi itself be its own little agentic or RAG application that sees what's going on and absolutely these events. These are things that using
OTLP,
Oh,
hotel,
yes,
just say
thank you. It's
hotel,
an
makes it easy.
OpenTelemetry. Is only going to help fuel that activity. And why say all that mumbo jumbo, Lester? Because at Datavolo, not only do we want to run your NiFi environment, but we want to make it better. We want to make it more appropriate. We definitely want to put all these things together to help people not just save money and us save money and all that stuff, but to show you what you could do better. And I think you're right. This stuff fuels the heck out of all that good stuff. That's incredible.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, did we reach
That's
the end
all
of
I
our
have.
show, or do you want to talk about your summer vacation plans that you had this year?
Yeah, I think that's all I got from this point. But great questions. Glad to walk through this. Hope it was helpful.
No, thanks for always humoring me with my silly 14th grade level questions there. I call it sophomore or something. Sophomore computer science kind of questions, I guess. But
It's all
that's it
good.
for
I'm
us
sure
this
many
time.
had the same
I
questions.
have a feeling you're going to be back here again.
Look
But
forward to it.
and I'm looking forward to much. Let's catch up offline. And for anyone else, definitely take a look at the playlist. We got a whole bunch of other events. If you're watching this later than whatever this August 2024, hopefully got a whole lot more in the future as well. So, David, I thank you so much for your time, and I'm going to see
Thank
you
you.
on the flip side. Peace out.
Talk to you soon. Thanks. See ya.